And so we'll have this recording available on the KEDS Online website for anyone who misses a webinar, or if you've got any teachers or want to come back and watch the webinar later, you'll be welcome to. It'll be posted online and available 24/7. So one of the most frequently asked questions that we have is, who are we required to assess? And the official answer are all students who have IEPs as of the December 1 child count, regardless of their setting. And so if you have a child who is speech only, who is receiving services at home or at a private child care, you are still required to conduct a full assessment on that child. You're required to assess all at-risk 4-year-olds, all students, including Head Start students with IEPs, and all state-funded students with IEPs. The other students who you may include but are not required are any Head Start students who do not have IEPs. A lot of blended programs go ahead and send us all of their data because it's a little bit easier than having to segregate it, and we welcome that data. Any preschool students who are tuition paying, and then any children who are in RTI. Now, you're welcome to go ahead and conduct that assessment, especially if you know that the child's probably going to be placed. Go ahead and conduct that assessment, and that way you have the ability to do the progress reports in the winter, and then in the spring you'll have additional progress reports to collect on that child. But again, those last 3 categories are not required in terms of assessing the children and sending to KEDS. Now, you may have, for instance, the Head Start students without IEPs. Head Start has requirements to assess those children, but they're not required for the KEDS. And then when you'll actually conduct the assessments. So the requirement is in the fall and in the spring. The fall is our baseline data, and so we ask that you conduct that assessment as close to the beginning of the school year as possible. The spring assessment is then their progress data, and so you're going to conduct that assessment as close to the end of the school year as possible. Now, we do have an optional winter assessment period, and that is for the children who enroll mid-year. And so if you know that you're not going to be able to conduct their assessment and get the data entered in by the fall deadline, we open up the winter assessment point period, and that's just for the children who, again, enroll mid-year and you're not able to get their data in. We have recommended timelines for conducting the assessments, but because every school district and sometimes every school operates on different calendars, it's really the district's decision as to when those dates actually do occur. And so our next slide has the timelines that are posted on the KEDS website. And so for the fall season, we open data collection on October the 1st. And then we recommend that you assess the child in August and September, but no later than October the 1st. And the reason, again, is because this is baseline data. And we don't want we don't want to be collecting any progress at this point. And if school started at the beginning of August, by October, you know that they're already starting to show some progress. And so you'll want to cut those observations off as soon as possible. And then KEDS will close then on November the 15th. For the children who enroll mid-year and thus fall into that winter assessment category, we ask that you assess those children within 4 weeks of the date that they enter the program, and then KEDS will close for data entry for the winter then on January the 30th. And then that last data season is the spring. Our recommended assessment period is March 1st through April the 15th, but again, your district may decide that they want to push it back even farther, especially if you have a last day that's later in May. You may decide that you want to push that back a little farther. And then KEDS Online will close then on May the 15th. One of the new requirements is for the child to have a homeroom assigned to their to the record in Infinite Campus. And for all of the children that are enrolled in the preschool classroom, the answer is yes. They should have one homeroom assigned. Now, Annie Rooney French is still receiving additional clarification about the children who are not being served in the preschool classroom. And so those that are service type N, there's a lot of questions circulating as to whether or not those children have to have a homeroom assigned. We don't have a definite answer at this point, so we will be emailing all of the preschool coordinators to let you know what that definite answer is. When you have missing students, and so when you log into your KEDS account on October the 1st and you have children that are missing, we do ask that you please not email us any child identifying information. Instead, we offer 3 methods to contact us. The first is by phone. You're welcome to call us. We have several phone numbers listed on our website. You can fax that information, or there is a third option through a secure messaging system that we've set up in KEDS Online. Now, for those children who either withdraw, children that you don't even know who they are, or that age out, you can update their enrollment status to be withdrawn, and then it'll require an exit date, and we generally recommend that you use the enrollment date then. And so especially for those children that are either unknown, maybe their parents had filled out the paperwork over the summer, but the child never enrolled in preschool, or for the children who had, maybe they're a kindergartner or a first grader. Sometimes those children, for whatever reason, show up in the KEDS export out of Infinite Campus. So again, you can use the enrollment status of withdrawn and use the enrollment date as the exit date. So this is that secure messaging system. So this is a great way to contact us about any missing children. And it'll ask you information about the record and then what you need to be done with it. And then it might ask some follow-up questions based on that. And so what's nice about that is that it does collect all the information that we need in order to make the change in KEDS. And so that link is at the bottom of every page in the KEDS website. There's one for KDE and one for First Steps. And so if you do have a question, that's a great method to contact us. A reminder about teacher accounts. Last year we locked out all of the teacher accounts from the previous year. And so for those who have been inactive for more than a year, and so they've been locked out since last year, we will be deleting those accounts. And that's just because KEDS has been around for going on 7 years. We have a lot of teacher accounts, and a lot of those we know are teachers that maybe have left or are no longer entering data into KEDS. And so we'll be locking out those accounts and then deleting the ones that are inactive. If you do have a lot of teacher accounts that you'd like to see deleted, you can email a list of those accounts and we'll go ahead and delete them for you. So just some quick reminders about KEDS Online. The first is that you will be verifying all the child records. We do require that you enter an assessment date, and that's the date that the child was actually assessed. And we realize that with some of the assessments, it might take a couple days, but so long as you either choose like the middle date or the date that you started the assessment. And that's to determine what the child's chronological age was at the time that they were assessed. We do ask that you update their enrollment status, and we give you several options. And my rule of thumb is that if they're enrolled, that just means that they're receiving services. And so even if it's a Head Start child with an IEP or a speech-only child at a private child care with an IEP, they would still be considered enrolled, and that just means that they're receiving services. The last question on the child's demographics is a verification. Once it's verified, that actually locks the record. And so we do receive Infinite Campus downloads once a week. And if the record is not locked, then we do not then we overwrite that data every week. And once the record has been verified and locked, then no additional changes will be made. So this is a list of all of the demographic data that we export out of Infinite Campus, and that has to be verified in KEDS. And then we do ask some additional questions for each student, including their limited English proficiency, their enrollment status, which assessment and assessment modality was used. So we give you the opportunity to update this. As those of you who have done KEDS before know, sometimes that Infinite Campus data is not correct, and so this is your opportunity to make sure that the demographic data is absolutely correct before you submit your data for analysis. So this is the percent of demographics that have been verified in KEDS. And so you can see in fall 2011 we had 95%, and then every data season it's really kind of dropped off, and that's been really unfortunate. We think that some of that has to do with an increase in the number of children that are being exported out of Infinite Campus who are not required to have an assessment. And so we're seeing a lot more blended Head Start programs, and those Head Start children are being exported out of Infinite Campus and into KEDS, and the district is not updating those records. So we think that that has a lot to do with it. So that's one of our goals this data collection season, is to try and get our percent verified back up above 90%. This is the assessment choices for the 2012 to last year, 2012 to 13. You can see that an overwhelming number of districts have chosen Teaching Strategies Gold. And some of these, like the Carolina, we only have one school district that is using the Carolina district-wide, but there are several districts that have chosen it as a secondary assessment. And this is a reminder, I know a lot of you have seen this information. For this upcoming school year, the list of assessments is actually being narrowed. And so as of this upcoming 2014 school year, the only approved assessments are the Teaching Strategies Gold, Work Sampling, the Core, the AEPS, and the Carolina. And so if you are using one of those tools like the Lab 3 or the Brigands that is not going to be approved in this upcoming year, you'll need to contact your RTC. And this is the data set from 2 years ago, which is the data that was reported for the SPP in December. Some of the changes are, certainly a good one is the increased number of districts with complete data. And that is the demographics were verified, and more districts are turning in assessments that have 100% of the items completed. One of the big changes was the change from the creative curriculum, the developmental continuum, to the Teaching Strategies Goal. And there was a shift there because of the difference in the age span and the levels. And so Caroline Gooden will be doing a webinar that addresses specifically just the data and the data analysis from this school year to talk about what they were considering the gold effect. Okay, and for those using a publisher's online system, a couple of reminders. The first is that we do ask that you enter the child's SSID in the child's record in the publisher's online system. And so if you're using Teaching Strategies Gold, we do ask that you enter that 10-digit ID into the child's demographic record. And the reason is there are 35,000 records that we receive from Infinite Campus, and it's almost impossible to match those records by anything other than SSID. Now, a new reminder that we do have this year is that we ask that you match the child's name in the Publishers Online system to what is entered into Infinite Campus. And the reason is occasionally we do have errors with the SSID. That is a 10-digit number, and it is easy to transpose. And so if the child's name is identical to what it is in Infinite Campus, it's a lot easier to match that up. We see children who have nicknames entered into the Publishers Online system, or children that have hyphenated last names. Maybe only part of the last name is entered into the Publishers Online system. And so we do ask that that match be made. And then the last reminder is that you do score every item. And that question does come to us a lot about speech-only children. And the federal guidance is that you do have to complete a full assessment for every child. And so that would include the children with speech-only IEPs. For those using a paper pencil system, you will be required to score every item. You'll be entering that data into KEDS Online, and it will not let you verify that record until every item has a score. And then, again, you'll have to verify that record at the end. So here's all of our contact information. Our website is kedsonline.org. We've got several phone numbers listed, including a toll-free option. And then our fax numbers are listed, especially at the end of the data collection season when we're contacted pretty heavily. We have found that we get a backlog on our fax machine, so I've got the fax number listed for the fax machine that's downstairs. Okay, so at the end of my presentation, I'm going to open it now for questions. You can either speak or you can use the chat box at the bottom left.
Good morning.
Hi.
The question is, does the information stop at October 1, correct?
Can you repeat that?
The teachers, if I ask them to make sure all the assessment data is in, and we're getting ready to go on fall break, so they need to have it in by October 1, correct?
Yeah. Our recommendation is that they not observe past October the 1st. Now, there are districts that have an October the 1st deadline for their teachers to get their data entered, but that's certainly not our recommendation. We give you until November the 15th. Now, I would have your teachers back that up a couple weeks and give your teachers a deadline that suits your schedule so that you have time to check it and make sure. I know that Teaching Strategies Gold is, they have reports where you can check to make sure that all of the items are entered for every child. And so I would give yourself time to check their work before the November the 15th deadline. But no, the recommendation is not to have it in by October the 1st.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm going to stay on the line for a little bit longer if anybody has any specific questions that they'd like to ask. If not, I thank you for your participation, and again, I will have this recorded and posted online.